All right, everyone. It is now 5 o'clock Central Time. Welcome. I am so excited that you're here. So, my name is Jennifer Bonner. I have been a nurse for 15 years. I'm a certified nurse midwife. I have been in education for the last 3 years, and I've been with Archer for almost 2 years and currently serve as their tutor team lead. So, typically, I'm working one-on-one with students on private tutoring. I teach a little bit in IP. I host some of the webinars. You see me in the 3-day live, but today we are jumping into our free webinar for today. So I am so excited that you're here. We are going to get going here in just a second. All right. We have all of our things going. Perfect. All right. So if you are new to our webinars, we always start out with the, whoops, there we go. We always start out, we want to know, where are you joining us from? Where are you joining us from today? I am in chilly South Dakota, but I'm really excited to hear where you are. So if you're not familiar with Slido, we're going to join at slido.com. You can enter in the code study methods, or you can just go ahead, use your smart device. Whoops, smart device. And you can scan that QR code that's right there on your screen, and that should get you into our Slido for today. So Florida, Canada, Syracuse, Houston, New Jersey, North Carolina, Philippines, Orlando, Massachusetts, Louisiana, joining from the UK. Louisiana, awesome. New Mexico, Vancouver, Montana, Georgia, Dallas, awesome. It is so exciting to see where, and someone's from Jamaica, awesome. It's so exciting for me to see where everyone is from. And the fact that something that unites us is that we are either nurses or we're wanting to become nurses. And we all know that wherever you are in your nursing journey, whether you're in nursing school or you are a nurse already, and maybe you're jumping into getting ready to go to grad school, or you're preparing for the NCLEX. We're all trying to learn, how can we best study for that next exam. So I'm so excited that you are here. We're going to spend the next 30 minutes talking about different types of learning styles. How can we best study? So let's go back and let's take a minute about, let's look at a quick assessment that we can figure out, how do we learn best. So there are all types of learning opportunities. There's all types of learning styles. You don't have to take a quiz to know what learning style you are, but there are several quizzes out there. You can just look for them on learning style quizzes, and it will tell you, based on some questions that you answered, hey, how do you best study? How do you best learn? So someone with a visual learning is going to be partial to seeing things. Like, they're going to really enjoy pictures. That's really going to help them understand diagrams, written instructions, things like this. This is also referred to as the spatial learning style. So students who learn through sight, they understand information better when it's presented in a visual way, something that's going to catch their eye. These are your doodling students. My husband, we were recently at something that we were supposed to be really paying attention to, and I look over and he's doodling, and I'm like, that makes sense. So these are our doodlers, our list makers, students who take notes. Now, what about our auditory learners? They tend to learn better when a subject is reinforced by sound. So, podcasts, listening to a lecture over again. These students would much rather listen to a lecture than have to read written notes. They're often going to use their own voice to reinforce new concepts. Sometimes they're going to read it out loud. That's a lot of times how they prefer to learn, is by reading something out loud for them to hear their own voice. They're not afraid to speak up. They are great at verbally explaining things. And they tend to be slower at reading and may often repeat things that a teacher tells them, because that repetition is really going to help. Now, our kinesthetic learners. Any kinesthetic learners with me? That is me. We sometimes call these tactile learners. We learn through doing or experiencing things. We tend to get involved by acting out events or using our hands to touch and handle in order to understand these major concepts. So when I was in midwifery school, I was trying to learn, okay, how does this baby rotate? Anybody struggling with rotation of baby? I had to get in there and play with a doll. I got a doll and I pretended it was in a pelvis and I rotated it to help me understand what was going on. Typically, these learners can struggle to sit still. They often are going to excel at things like sports or things like dance. They need to take more frequent breaks when they're studying. So, if this is you, typically you are going to need more frequent breaks. So tell me, what is the learning style that you typically use the most? Let me know. What typical style is your learning style? We have kinesthetic, auditory, visual. Which one are you? All right. Give you just a couple seconds. And go ahead, if you are on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, go ahead. I want you to tag your nursing friends. Let them know, hey, don't keep this information to yourself. Let your friends know. I'm seeing a lot of visual, little hands-on. All right, let's see what you guys said. Many of you are visual, and then we have auditory and kinesthetic right there next to each other. Awesome. It's really important that we understand. And if you don't know where you are or how you study best, totally not a problem. But I would recommend that you go in and take a little test, see what that shows up for you. Check it out, see if that changes your studying. Now, things that I like to ask students is, how have you studied before? Look at what has worked, what hasn't worked. So, one year in nursing school, I decided I'm going to go through my textbook, I'm going to read, and I'm going to highlight, and that's going to be my studying. Let me tell you, that did not work at all. I was less than successful, let's just say. And so I was able to go back and see where highlighting was helpful for me because it helped me keep on track, but it did not really help me study. What did help me study was making graphs or making, a lot of times I would make flashcards, especially when I'm trying to compare and contrast things. See if I can put them in order the way they go. There's also, I want you to think about what are some new methods that I want to implement based on my learning style. So I'm very much kinesthetic, and I saw a friend that was trying to learn the rotations of a baby by using a doll. And I thought, that's a little silly. That costs a little extra money, but I'm willing to try it. And so that was really helpful. I was able to look in and see, you know what? Let's check this out. Let's see if that would be of help. So I want you to rank your current study habits. And whoops, when you do that, I want you to tell me, how do you feel like your current study habits are? Do you feel like you're doing a good job? Is it a little bit of a struggle? What do you think? How are your current study habits? I'm seeing solid, awesome, solid study habits. That's great. Struggling, 6 out of 10. Horrible. Not too bad. Okay. Wherever you are, it doesn't matter if you're like, yes, I got this. This is amazing. I'm doing so great at studying. Or you're like, oh, Jennifer, I leave a lot to be desired in the study department. Wherever you are, this is for you. But it is really important that when you are studying, that you are taking that into account and understanding, okay, I got this. I can do this. And you're able to make changes as needed. Perfect. There we go. All right, so let's talk about some ways that we can study. So there are several ways. These are just some of our most common. You can do practice questions. So this is really important, especially for those of us who are getting ready to take the NCLEX, because we want to know, how are these questions phrased? How are they broken down? What types of questions might I see? There's going to be bow tie, select all that apply. So it's really important that we use those study um, practices and include our practice questions. Flashcards, like I noted before, taking notes, teaching someone else. I don't care if it's your doll, I don't care if it's your dog, it could be a family member. This is really important. But the other thing that's important is to make sure that that person can say, oh, so this was great, but don't forget about this part. So maybe a fellow student or listening. There are several options you can ask your instructors if they would be willing to allow you to listen to the lecture over again. We have some great on-demand videos that are perfect for that. Even our webinars, you can be listening to these as you're driving down the road. It's a great opportunity to try to get in some of those study habits. The other thing may sound a little bit strange, but you got to know what you don't know. And sometimes we don't know what we don't know until we don't know it, right? So figure out what it is that you don't know and figure it out. So for instance, when you're going through the Q bank and you hit the question on Cushing's versus Addison's, and you're like, oh man, I don't remember one is high and low, one is low, and I don't remember where it goes. So that would be something that I would keep track of on my trusty dusty notebook here. So I always keep one of these close to my desk when I'm studying to keep track of those areas that I really need to concentrate on. So if I got to that question, I'm like, I don't know about Addison's disease. I'm going to write that down. And before the end of the day, I'm going to go back and I'm going to check that out. Yes, Laxmi is saying practicing questions after reading the content is helpful as well. Excellent job. The other thing that I recommend doing is when you're taking practice questions, regardless if you got it right or wrong, make sure you go through the rationale. Make sure you understand why is the right answer right and the wrong answer wrong. So instead of memorizing, which can be tempting at times, I want you to work on synthesis and understanding that information. I want you to be able to recall lists, facts. Maybe sometimes that gets you through nursing school, but this method usually doesn't work long term. It typically doesn't work on the NCLEX. When I talk understanding critical thinking, I want you to apply those concepts to new situations. So we just talked about different ways that we can be able to know what we don't know. One of those ways is by realizing, oh, I didn't know about Cushing's through taking a practice question. But when we go through memorizing versus understanding, this is where we're able to explain to someone. We're not just knowing, okay, this one's high, this one's low, this one's this one's that. We're able to verbalize about Cushing's disease and about Addison's disease. This is why understanding is so important. We're really going to want to draw out some of those concepts. So I want you to tell me, hop back onto Slido, and I want you to tell me, have you spent more time understanding or have you spent more time memorizing? So there's a question, how do you choose the correct answer after you narrow it down to the two closest answers? So there's a couple ways that we can do this. One of the ways is seeing, are they opposites and figuring out which one goes where. Remember, if we're looking at an answer or our answers and part of that answer is false, the whole thing is false. So I was definitely a memorizer. I wanted to have that information. And you know what? When it came time for tests, I would typically brain dump. I'm like, let me get rid of all of this information onto my paper. And on the NCLEX, that's actually not allowed. So taking this time to understand why these things work is going to be really helpful for you. The rationales with our QBank are amazing for that. Helping you to understand the connections and why one versus the other. So I'm seeing both, but moving forward to understanding, half and half, tried both. There is certainly a time and a place for memorizing, understanding those lab values, but I also want you to be able to apply that information. Excellent job. So what are we talking about when we're saying actively studying? I want you to be engaged in your study habits. I want you to create a study guide, or you can use one that we have created. Did you know that in your Archer dashboard, there are 3 different study plans? There is a 3-week plan that I very rarely recommend, but that's for someone who's just graduated. They've already taken an NCLEX prep course. There's a 6-week plan for someone who just graduated but maybe didn't take a review course. And then there's our 12-week. That's the one that I recommend for repeat test takers, students who have graduated maybe a bit ago. That is the one that I recommend pretty frequently. Become a teacher. Teach someone about what you're learning. Make some concept maps or some diagrams. One of my favorites for creating this type of information, let me show you, is a Venn diagram. It's where you make 2 circles. Let's see how my circles are today. Not very great. And they interlock, but you've got space in the middle. So let's say I'm looking at diabetes type 1. So I'm going to put diabetes 1, diabetes 2 on this side. And on this side, I'm going to put all the information that is true for diabetes type 1. Over here, all the information that's true about diabetes type 2. And in the middle, I'm going to write all the things that could be true about both. And you can do that for Cushing's, for Addison's, many different options when we're trying to use this Venn diagram. But it's a great way to figure out where are those differences at, where are those similarities. Another way that you can actively study is when you're taking review questions. A great way to do this is by rewording the question in your own words. So if the question says, which of these would you recommend for a low sodium diet? I might reword that to say, okay, which of these has the lowest sodium in them? So take a look at the question, give yourself the amount of time you need to say, okay, I've read through the question, I know what it's asking, and then rephrase it in your head. Sometimes that gives us just a little bit more of a headway on what we're looking at. Now, we've talked about flashcards before, but flashcards are great for on the go, especially if you put a little hole punch in them and put one of those little rings in them. You can take these anywhere. If you're sitting in the Chick-fil-A parking lot waiting on your chicken, you can go through your flashcards. If you're like me and waiting at the school on your kids to get out of school and you're sitting in the pickup line, go through your flashcards. If you're sitting watching a movie, go through your flashcards. This is great for memorization, but it also helps us take it on the go. The other thing is, once you know that information, check it off so that you're not spending time focusing on cards that you already know. When you're making flashcards, make sure you group like topics so that you can see similarities, you can see differences as you're going through them. Now, here's a great example. So someone is saying, I can't see my face on camera. We actually have everyone muted and off camera for these webinars. Thank you for asking. So this would be a really great idea for one of your flashcards. So on one side, I might write anticoagulant, and on the back, or you could put it all on one side. This is how we make some of our pharmacology class flashcards. I want to know, what group is it in? What medications might I see? And what else is in there that tells me what it does? Any pertinent labs I need to know about? What would be the antidote? Things that I would want to monitor for. These are all things that I would want to include in my flashcards. Another thing that we recommend is taking notes. So if you're listening today, and you're like, Jennifer, there's no way I'm going to remember everything you're saying. You're talking too fast. Well, the great thing is these lectures are recorded and they are actually available on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel after we're finished for you to view again. And you can even slow us down and listen a little bit slower if that's something that you need. Taking notes, rewriting notes, a lot of times, especially if that is the way you learn, can help solidify that information. When you're writing notes, make sure you keep those topics together so that you can, again, see those similarities, see those differences. Use different colors of pen. So if you're working on the respiratory system, maybe use a blue pen. If you're, one of my very favorite things to do is coloring. So if you're trying to learn how blood passes through the heart, I would recommend using your blue pen for deoxygenated blood or oxygenated blood and your red pen for deoxygenated blood, or using different colors in order to be able to differentiate those. All right, so we're going back to Slido. I want you to tell me, do you typically review your notes? So when you're going through your notes, is it something typical for you to go back and review those notes? I have to admit, sometimes I like to write them and I feel really good about the fact that I wrote them and I have pages of notes, but very rarely did I go back and reread them. Very rarely. Yes, I say about 70% of the time. No. Yes. No, because I write a lot. Understandable. Just before an exam. Yeah. So sometimes we might do better at this when we're talking about certain areas that we're trying to learn from. And other times we may just not altogether. So let me show you a couple different ways that we can organize our notes. So this is an example of a way that you can take some notes, especially when we're studying like information. So in this example, we're looking at hypertensive medications. So we start in the middle with hypertensive medications. I might write, the next thing I might branch out and say, okay, what are my major hypertensives? Well, those are my ACEs, my beta blockers, my calcium channel blockers, my angiotensin receptors. Now, in that, I'm also going to write, how do I know what those are? Well, I might write these end in LOL. Excuse me. And then I'm going to further break that down. What are examples of these medications that I'm going to see? So examples of calcium channel blockers are going to be things like diltiazem, verapamil, angiotensin receptors. They're going to end in artan, like losartan. Okay. And then I also want to know, okay, what are the side effects of this medication? What are things that I'm going to see? What are some things that I'm going to want to look out for when I'm giving this medication? Someone's saying, I need this layout. This is great for concept mapping. You can do this anywhere. You can make it on your computer. You can just draw it out. There's no right or wrong way. Now, when we're concept mapping, how do we get the most out of this? Well, I'm going to recommend that you handwrite them, but there's a lot of times when people really need to use their computer, and I totally understand that. Use different colors. Make sure that you're not writing everything, you're not word vomiting onto your concept map, but you're bullet pointing those most important pieces of information. Try to make a concept map every few days and keep it up on your wall if you'd like. And then make sure you go back and you're reviewing that information and then revise it as you learn new information or as you feel that you need to add more. What about listening? So there are a lot of opportunities to listen to information. And you can listen to it more than one time. Sometimes you can record yourself teaching, or you can re-listen to a webinar or a presentation. Find podcasts that really help you understand that information. You can do this while you're going for a walk. So sometimes, listen, we understand that nursing school can be stressful. We understand that studying for boards can be stressful. We understand that grad school can be stressful. So go for a walk. This is a really great opportunity to be able to get out some of that energy, but you can also be listening as you go. You can do this as you're getting ready in the morning before bed. This is when I like to watch or listen to my favorite podcast. This is in the morning when I'm putting school lunches together. I'm trying to do my hair or brush my teeth. Sometimes when my husband's in the shower, I can hear him on the other side of our house because that's when he likes to listen to his podcast, when he's getting ready in the morning. So this is a great opportunity to listen to podcasts. You can throw in your earbuds or you can put on your headphones, whatever works for you. This is a great opportunity to check out Pulsed In. PUSLEDIN. I'll have, we can have Diane, who's our lovely support chat tonight. She'll put that link for you in the in the chat, but it's a free resource. You can get it on your mobile device and have that ready to go for you. You can listen to lectures, you can do case studies. There are so many options to check out there. All right, so we referenced this before, but teaching someone. This can be really helpful because if you've ever had to teach someone, you know how much preparation it takes to be able to give that information out. If you're in a study group, pick someone each week in order to teach a specific subject and then take notes as they're teaching. And then when it's your turn, you can return the favor. If you're studying alone, teach a pet, teach a roommate, go through your notes and make sure that you didn't miss anything. Or if you're teaching a classmate, the great thing is they can say, Jennifer, you did a really great job teaching about diabetes, but I think you switched up diabetes type 1 and type 2. So it's really important that we get some feedback or we make sure that we check our resources. Now, what do we mean by studying like information? Well, when we study similar information together, we make associations between that information. So we can start to see, okay, this is how these two are similar. This is how these two are different. We can make lists, and this helps us be able to study that's going to eliminate one less thing that we need to memorize. So if we know, okay, I need to look at Cushing's, Addison's, and I need to check out those developmental milestones. Keep a list of the things that you need to check out. Another thing that's really great is if any of you anyone that attended our 3-day live just last week, let me know in the chat if you were with us on our 3-day live. This is why we go through information. We go through our pharmacology system by system. So if we're talking about cardiac, we're going to talk about the cardiac meds. If we're talking about maternity, we're going to talk about medications like tocolytics, things like that. So this really helps us to organize that information so that when we're studying those areas, we're going to better absorb that content. Also, go ahead and make up your own mnemonics. My kids laugh at me all the time because if there's something that we need to learn, I typically either make up a mnemonic or I make up a song about it. This is how I taught my son his phone number and how to spell his name. Making up mnemonics was very helpful. All right, so I want to know, which study method do you think is going to work for you? Is there something that we've talked about that you're like, Jennifer, I definitely want to try that study method? I'm interested to find out, which study method are you looking forward to checking out? Concept maps. Yes, those are so much fun. I like using all the colors. I have a pen problem. I have pens of all different colors and I love using them. Teaching, yes. Mnemonics, perfect. We have a lot of those here at Archer. They tend to really help us in those areas. Concept maps, reviewing notes, perfect. So if you're struggling with how to study, where to get started, let me recommend our SurePass combo. This is our #1 recommended package. It comes with the QBank. It comes with our on-demand videos that you can listen to on the go, or you can watch them like you're in a classroom. It also comes with our very favorite 3 days of the month, our 3-day live. This is where we go through all, well, I shouldn't say all, but a lot of the high yield topics that you are going to notice will come up on the NCLEX. So it's really important that we understand, what are those things that I really need to pay attention about? Do I really need to know what a semen analysis is, or would my time be better spent looking at the stages of labor? This is really important. So if you're an RN, scan that QR code there on the left. If you're PN, scan it on the right. Like I said, this is one of our, well, this is our #1 recommended package because it has everything you need to study for the NCLEX. The other thing is, if you're struggling and you're not sure what to do or where you're going wrong, check out our small group tutoring or our private tutoring. Small group tutoring is just that. It's a group of students in a small group. typically less than 20 to 25. A lot of times there's 5 students. And so you have an hour with one of our amazing tutors. We offer lots of different options. Scan the QR code there that will show you what we have going on. This is $25 for an hour session. It's an awesome value. If there's something that you're particularly struggling with, this is the place for you. So before we go, let's figure out, okay, we've figured out how to study, but how do we answer these NCLEX style questions? Well, one way is to immerse yourself in those questions. Get familiar with how they work. Set a goal for how many you want to answer in a day. If you're following one of our study plans, it's outlined for you right there on the calendar. So no worries. Find some time to sneak in some questions when you're waiting in line, or you're just sitting, maybe you're waiting for your turn to pick up your kiddo. And make sure that you read those rationales, even if you get them right. Now, what about breaking down those questions? Well, there's a couple things I want to know. Am I looking for one answer, or is it possible that there's multiple answers? Are there any that are opposites of each other? If there's opposites, my attention is automatically drawn to those two options because they can't both be correct. The ABCs. What's likely to kill my patient first? Remember, airway, breathing, circulation. And then are there any keywords in the question? Rephrase the question. Break it down even further on what is actually being asked. Someone is asking, does Polston have an app? They absolutely do. And where can we access the study guide? The study plans are available in your Archer Review dashboard under study calendars. Okay, so how about we check out an NCLEX question? Anyone up for practicing what we've already learned by looking at a question together? I know I definitely am. So let's see what our option is here. A client was admitted to the ER due to a low serum calcium level. Upon further examination, he demonstrates carpopedal spasms, reports numbness in his lips and hands. An ECG was taken and revealed a prolonged QT interval. Upon assessment of the client, the nurse should suspect which condition: hyperthyroid, hypothyroid, hyperparathyroid, or hypoparathyroid. Okay, we've got lots of opposites here. So let's break it down. Let me know in the chat, what do you think our answer is here? Seeing a lot of D. Awesome. You guys are doing great. You should be very proud. Excellent. Yes, the answer here is D. Now, remember, our symptoms of hypoparathyroid are going to look like hypocalcemia, numbness, tingling lips and hands, carpopedal spasms, or we call them Trousseau's syndrome, Trousseau's sign, muscle, abdominal cramps. We're going to see that QT interval prolonged. We're going to see T wave abnormalities because we have that low serum calcium. Serum phosphorus levels are also going to be up there. Excellent, excellent work. All right. What about private tutoring? Let's check that out. So private tutoring is an awesome opportunity. You get one-on-one attention from one of our amazing private tutors. It's an hour long. It's $75 per hour. Unless you book 3 or more, then you get a discount, and 6 or more, you get a bigger discount. But you can cover whatever it is that you need to cover in that amount of time. If you're like, Jennifer, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to break down questions. We can look at that for an hour. If you're like, hey, Jennifer, I'd like to look at peds for an hour, and I'd look to look at peds for half and maternity for half, we can certainly do that. So go ahead, scan the QR code, and see what options are available for you. So remember, at Archer Review, we are more than just NCLEX prep. We are here for you from the beginning in pre-nursing. We have T's help through nursing school with Archer Review. We are here with you getting ready for the NCLEX and even beyond. So if you're interested in going back to school, getting that nurse practitioner degree, we have a community for you. So please don't hesitate. Reach out to us. Let us know how we can help. We enjoy working with you. We enjoy hearing from you. We enjoy hearing about your successes, and we love walking with you through the struggles. So if you're looking for a small group, you're looking for a private tutor session that and you notice that none of these that are available are fitting your needs, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at nclextutors@archerreview.com, and we're happy to help see if we can accommodate your needs. Now remember, we're here 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, with our free webinars, with the exception of last week because we had 3-day live, but we are here for you. These are available to you recorded on our Facebook and YouTube channel. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. We'll be back here on Wednesday. All right. Take care, guys. Have a wonderful evening.